America as an exchange student in summer of 2007. It was a significant change to move to a small town on Lake Michigan from the capital of a desert country in Central Asia. I was 16 years old. I cared little about religion, any religion really. In my teenage mind, I was convinced that the accomplishments I had achieved so far had no relationship or any link with a higher power or being. All I knew was that I wanted to improve my English, go to college, and get the best education I could. However, I was thrust into an unexpected role by my new acquaintances. Without seeking it, I became an unofficial ambassador of both my country and culture. Every day I met new people who would first notice my accent and then throw numerous questions at me. While the questions varied, most reflected a relative ignorance of my home country, Turkmenistan, and exhibited some stereotypes about Islam, our country's majority religion. When I would mention that I come from a country where about 90% of the population is Muslim, I almost always received astonished looks. Some seemed terrified, others surprised, and the rest could barely take a breath between their copious questions. How many women die of stoning in your country? Why do you Muslims believe in that barbaric practice of female mutilation? Are all women forced to wear, that turban thing? Oh, your country has a border with Afghanistan, so that means there's Taliban in your country, right? Not all people who asked these questions intended to be mean or rude. Most were curious and desired answers, and I certainly wanted to respond back. I wanted to be able to speak eloquently about Islam, my religion, because the Islam that they imagined was not the Islam I knew, and was certainly not the Islam I grew up with. The Islam I knew was embodied in a wonderful grandmother, a pediatrician, who lived a life of a continuous self-sacrifice for the good of others. The Islam I knew was a group of people who lived peacefully together, supporting and encouraging one another. The Islam I knew was a grocery seller in a local bazaar who at times of great financial struggles of my family would allow my mother to buy his groceries for free and then pay him back whenever she could, which often meant months later. There weren't any credit cards, loans, written contract, or signing any paperwork. It was simply one Muslim man helping his Muslim sister. I wanted to tell everyone about these people and their selfless acts. I desired to use big, sophisticated words to describe all this, but I did not yet know how to say it. Nor did I yet have the inner strength to speak confidently about Islam. I came back to the United States in August of 2008 to go to college. I was extremely happy. My visa was successfully approved, I had an amazing host family, and life in general was good. I made a lot of new friends. I was fascinated with my new exciting college life, yet religion still had no place in it. My personal relationship with Islam was uncertain and unstable. I figured if I behaved and dressed like my American friends, no one would ever bother me with their religious questions. So I followed the script. I wore mini skirts and shorts, very short shorts. I figured this way I would fit into the community and would become a true American. I earned to talk like my cool friends, and I discovered the amazing world of slang. In situations when someone asked me about my religion, I would simply state that I was an atheist, but I made sure to explain that the Islam that they knew and they imagined from the media, yes, thank you. But I made sure to explain that what they had learned about Islam from the media consisted purely of stereotypes, misconceptions, and generalizations. And that was true. They were. But what didn't feel true, what didn't seem to be genuinely mine, however, was my new cool life. Something was still lacking. Something was not right. I realized that by avoiding these religious questions, I was running away from my true self, not from other people. And I finally had to face that. Meanwhile, I encountered some intelligent people who possessed significant knowledge of history, religion, and politics, and who were, well, harshly critical of Islam. One of the encounters ended up with me hysterically crying. I wanted to defend my religion against his attack because in my experience, Islam is a religion of peace. Though I felt it was my duty, I lacked adequate knowledge in the inner experience of the heart of Islam. So I turned to something that has never betrayed me, something that was never rude and that always worked for me. I began learning. My host parents, who are primarily responsible for all my successes in the past 5 years, a quarter of my life, recognized my new passion to learn and bought me a Quran for Christmas. Later on, they continued to surprise me with more religious gifts, such as scholarly books and encyclopedias about Islam. I had no excuses anymore. I had to learn about my own religion if I wanted to educate others. So that was what I did. Oh, and by the way, my host family is Mormon. Seriously. Though through my study of Quran, I was able to educate myself about my religion of my childhood and gain new self-knowledge. It was so challenging yet joyful. I remember crying while talking to my host father, a Christian theologian, and trying to express my feelings of excitement and that I had discovered a new part of my identity, finally. I quickly fell in love with reading the Holy Quran, every chapter of which but one starts with, "In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful." I love this beautiful phrase. That's the image of the God that I do worship, gracious and merciful. Through personal reflection and experience, I grasped that modesty in dress is actually quite liberating. When I stopped wearing low-cut blouses, I no longer had to worry about the superficial appearance of my chest. Instead, I had extra energy to work on improving my inner state, my worship of God, helping others, and practicing forgiveness. These things, after all, are the true focus of Islam. Fortunately, I have since had a number of opportunities to express my knowledge and conviction of Islam to thoughtful questioners. My academic advisors and some instructors recognize my willingness and openness to share my story and ask me to speak to their classes. In the past 4 years, I have had a pleasure to create various presentations and speak to my fellow students in such college courses as geography, world cultures, introduction to psychology, human sexuality, gender, and society. Finally, there is one incident that stands out in my mind. Shortly after I came back for my 3rd year of college, after spending a summer vacation in Turkmenistan, someone in the parking lot yelled, "Hey terrorist, how was your summer?" I was livid. I wanted to scream. And here he was wearing a t-shirt referring to Jesus' miracle of the loaves and fishes. I thought, how ignorant and insensitive. I wanted to cut him to pieces theologically. In my anger, disappointment, and hurt, I wanted to do and say so many things. But I didn't. I did not, and I remained calm because it was Ramadan. And along with fasting and controlling your physical desires such as eating and drinking, we Muslims are also obligated to control our emotions, forgive, and be humble. I didn't because I remembered what the Holy Quran states. "And the servants of God, most gracious, are those who walk on the earth in humility. And when the ignorant address them, they say peace." Now look, my breakfast sandwich does not contain any bacon, and I might not enjoy a glass of wine with my spaghetti dinner, but you and I are more alike than different. You know, though some people, despite the fact that some people still consider people from other countries as foreigners and immigrants and choose to see them like this and choose to connect terrorist activity with Islam, I prefer to see people simply as people. Like many other people from different faith traditions, my mind is preoccupied with helping people. That's why I went into nursing. And my heart loves to love and forgive. For me as a Muslim, my devotion also includes prostrating 5 times a day to worship the most gracious, Ar-Rahman, most merciful, Ar-Rahim, God. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share a little bit of my story, and I'm truly honored to be here today. Thank you.